Jupiter, Florida. The afternoon sun beat down upon the Briar Vale construction site, casting harsh shadows that stretched across the half-finished houses and piles of lumber. 2 months had passed since the first foundations were laid, and the site now bustled with activity. The air was thick with the scent of sawdust and fresh paint, mingled with the acrid fumes of gasoline. The constant hum of machinery filled the air, underscored by the steady pounding of hammers and the occasional bark of orders. It was a scene of industry and progress, a testament to human ambition carved out of the wilderness. Yet beneath the veneer of activity, there was a tension, a subtle unease that clung to the air like a shadow. Rick Collins moved through the site with the purposeful stride of a man on a mission, frustration evident in the tight lines of his jaw. The Briar Vale project was already behind schedule, and every delay felt like another goddamn nail in his career's coffin. He spotted Diego Morales, clipboard in hand, checking off inventory by a stack of lumber. "Diego!" Rick barked, his voice cutting through the hum of machinery and the thud of hammers. Diego turned, his expression serious, lines of worry etched across his face. "Rick?" Diego said, nodding in acknowledgement. Rick didn't slow his pace as he approached. "The lumber," he said bluntly. "What's the status? Are we still waiting on that damn delivery?" Diego hesitated for a moment, glancing at the stack of wood behind him. "Yes," he replied. "It just arrived. We're on schedule with that at least." Rick let out a harsh, short laugh. "Well, thank fuck for that," he muttered. "At least something is fucking on schedule." He ran a hand through his hair, already looking away from Diego and toward the commotion at the far end of the site. Diego opened his mouth as if to say something, but then closed it. Against his better judgment, he had pushed for this lumber delivery, insisting it was essential to get things back on track. But now that it was here, he felt a knot of regret in his stomach. Something about today felt off, as if the air itself were charged with a dark energy. Rick was about to continue his tirade when he noticed a group of workers gathered around the industrial wood chipper at the far end of the site. The machine was silent, smoke curling from its maw, and the men stood in a loose circle, their postures tense, eyes flicking between Rick and the chipper. "What now?" Rick grumbled, his irritation flaring anew. "If it's not one fucking thing, it's another." Diego followed Rick's gaze, his expression darkening. He could sense the unease in the men's stances. "I'll check it out," he offered, but Rick was already striding toward the scene, his steps quick and determined. Diego sighed and followed, his own pace slower, as if trying to delay the inevitable. As Rick approached, the workers parted like a somber, unwilling audience. Their faces were masks of strained frustration, but something darker lurked in their eyes, an apprehensive fear that seemed to seep into the very air around them. The silence was almost tangible, clinging to the scene like a heavy shroud, and the only sound was the occasional rustling of leaves, stirred by a hesitant breeze. "What's going on here?" Rick's voice sliced through the quiet, its sharpness accentuating the tension that crackled in the air. A burly worker, his thick beard flecked with grime and his hands streaked with oil and sweat, stepped forward. His face was ashen, eyes wide and nervous. "It's the chipper, boss," he stammered, his voice quavering. "Damn thing's jammed up again. We can't get it to start." Rick's jaw clenched, a muscle twitching erratically as he glared at the machine. "Again?" he barked. "What the hell are you idiots doing with this thing? It's supposed to cut wood, not take a fucking nap." The worker's shoulders slumped, his helplessness evident. "We've checked everything, boss. The blades, the motor, it just stopped." Rick's face twisted into a scowl as he pushed past the men, his anger evident in every step. The wood chipper loomed before him, its metal casing smudged with a thick layer of grime and sawdust that hinted at the violence it could unleash. The tangled mess of branches trapped in the blades looked grotesque, like a snarled mass of hair caught in a sinister trap. Rick seized a long, sturdy branch from a nearby pile, his movements sharp and impatient. He jabbed it into the chipper's gaping maw, his aggression palpable as he tried to dislodge the obstruction. The air was filled with the acrid scent of engine oil and the faint, unsettling sound of the chipper's internal workings, groaning with resistance. Diego, watching from a distance, felt a tightening in his chest, a gnawing sense of dread that seemed to grow heavier with each passing moment. His eyes were fixed on Rick, his hands clenched into tight fists as he watched the scene unfold with mounting anxiety. "Come on, you piece of shit," Rick growled, shoving the branch deeper into the chipper. His face was a mask of determination, but there was a flicker of something else, an underlying edge of fear that he fought to suppress. He leaned in, using his full weight to force the branch into the tangle, his body almost completely engulfed by the machine's shadow. Suddenly, there was a horrifying metallic groan from deep within the chipper, a sound that reverberated through Rick's bones and made his heart skip a beat. He hesitated, his breath catching in his throat before he thrust the branch in with renewed force. The wood chipper roared to life with a deafening, feral growl. The blades spun with an uncontrollable frenzy, their violent whirring cutting through the air like a monstrous scream. The branch was swiftly drawn into the machine's maw, and with a sickening, brutal jerk, Rick was pulled forward. His body lurched, hands flailing wildly as he fought for balance. For a heart-stopping moment, his eyes widened in sheer, unadulterated terror, his mouth opening in a silent, desperate cry. The chipper's blades caught Rick's sleeve, yanking him inexorably into the crushing, grinding maw. He struggled, his attempts to pull back futile against the relentless pull of the machine. The grinding, shredding noise grew louder, a grotesque symphony of metal and flesh that drowned out Rick's screams. Blood sprayed in dark, splattering arcs, staining the ground and the horrified faces of the men who had dared to stand too close. The workers stood frozen, their expressions frozen in a mixture of shock and horror as they watched Rick being torn apart by the merciless machine. The chipper's roar seemed almost triumphant, a guttural, monstrous sound that reverberated through the clearing and echoed ominously among the trees. And then, as quickly as it had started, it stopped. The chipper fell silent, its blades grinding to a halt. The air was thick with the metallic scent of blood, the echoes of the machine's roar fading into the oppressive heat of the afternoon. The only sound was the dull thud of Rick's remains hitting the ground, a twisted, broken heap at the foot of the machine. The men stared, pale and trembling, the horror of what they had witnessed still sinking in. It was then that the laughter began. Soft at first, almost a whisper, it drifted through the sight, carried on the breeze. It was a strange sound, soft, mocking, and cold, as if the very air was alive with malice. The workers glanced around, fear creeping into their eyes, searching for the source of the sound. But there was no one there, only the distant rustling of leaves and the faint hum of machinery.